Welcome back to Hollywood Interviews. We are joined today by Kristi Reed. Kristi, how are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there. You know, it's pandemic going on, almost year 3. The bar is low right now.
Yeah.
Entertainment comes in many, many and easy forms these days.
Oh my God. Year 3. Can we just let that soak in for a minute? Year 3. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has gone on for way too long. Kristi, you have done a lot of stuff. You do a lot of stuff. How did you get started in this wacky world of film and television?
I came at it interested in screenwriting. My undergraduate degree was in English. I went to an international school called United States International University. I studied all kinds of different forms of literature. In my last year, they did a screenwriting class. I took that and I was like, oh, I want to do that. That seems cool. So I pursued that for a little bit. I went and studied Master's of Fine Arts for screenwriting. I applied to a few schools. I ended up going to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. They did not have a unique screenwriting program. They combined that with directing. At the time, there weren't a lot of screenwriting programs. This was the early 90s. Now they're kind of everywhere. But they had a screenwriting program and also directing. You had to direct a short film in order to get in. I directed a short film. And I was like, oh, wait, the directing thing's pretty cool, too. So I studied, got my master's in film at Art Center, came out of there with a commercial reel to direct comedic 30-second narrative commercials. Did that, quickly realized, oh, I don't like advertising. This was a terrible mistake. And at the time, a friend of mine was starting a studio called Bang Zoom. His name was Eric Sherman. And he asked me to come on and do you could try this out. I think you'll like these. Just do like an anime and voice direct that. And I'm like, I don't know, man. And I went back to directing a commercial. I had a really shitty commercial. Came back to say, hey, Eric, a job's still available? He's like, yeah, come. And I did the first thing was something called The Idol Project. It was a 4-episode OVA. And then it kind of went from there. After a while, I realized, oh yeah, I keep doing this as opposed to everything else because this is where I'm happiest. Unlike a lot of other directors, I'm not an actor as far as voice directors go.
I have been there. I have directed a mini commercial and I hate it.
Yeah. It's like, it's so many chefs in the kitchen. So, at the end of the day, you're selling a product. So, that is what that is.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a perfect introduction. So a lot of what we're trying to do with our series is try to come at the entertainment industry from every angle, from grips to directors to actors. You're the first voice director we've had on, which is super exciting. I'm a child from the 80s, slightly older than Dustin. I was born in 83, so cartoons and animated programs are in my blood and my DNA. If I could go in a time machine, go back to Saturday morning, that's I don't want to say the happiest. I meant the birth of my 2 children, obviously, is the happiest.
Right. But cartoons, close second.
Right there, second. And then just watching cartoons with my kids, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's and a lot of the things you worked on are some of their favorite shows. My oldest kid, she's 18. My youngest kid, they're 14, non-binary. So a lot of the shows and things really speak to them as a person. So my question is this: as far as your casting is concerned, so what could you just break down the process a little bit of what you're looking for? So a project is announced. Of course, you're going through a bunch of different candidates. What is there a special it factor that you're looking for? How do you sort of decide who is right for which role?
Yeah, it's one of those things you just kind of feel. You listen to your instincts. You listen, hopefully you've been working on the show. If you're casting a show for the first time, it's a pilot. There's a lot more trial and error and you're feeling things out. If you've been working on the show for 20 plus episodes, you just know the tone, the rhythm of the show. So it's a little easier just to be like, you get the show, you're the tone of it. But I'm looking at the end of the day for someone who puts themselves into the character, who puts a lot of who they are into the role. And when that happens, you see people making choices based on actual experiences, which become incredibly palpable as you're watching the show. When someone puts choices into their acting performance that are based on their own experiences, it allows you as a viewer to just sympathize or empathize so much easier.
Absolutely. That makes, because we as human beings, we seek out that empathy and the sympathy. So if someone could bring that out, that makes a lot of sense.
You just tap into it and suddenly you relate to that character.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So not only are you a casting director, but you're also a writer. So what's the process? So when you're writing something and you get writer's block, we all get it.
Yeah.
What happens when you get writer's block?
You write anyways. There's someone recently said that they labeled their first draft of everything shitty first draft. And that's how they start it. And I was like, yeah, okay. You just write through it. That's the thing. You just know that this, and maybe you're even just writing, crap on a page. It could literally be those words, but you're sitting down and doing the action of it. It's just making sure you do it. It's, putting yourself outside your comfort zone. Because, a lot of writer's block, I'm a big fan of procrastination because I think it's your brain trying to figure out how to come at something. So there is a certain extent of you're not ready to do it yet. But there's a fine line between your brain figuring something out and you just being afraid to deal with an obstacle. So I think by just putting something down and doing whatever that writing exercise is, you eventually come past the block.
Nice. Yeah, when I get writer's block, I just start playing video games and then that helps me with
totally. Yeah.
For me, it's just music. I'll throw on some like oldie, like 80s or something, or some, throwback jams. And I'm like, okay, all right. Use music for me, just unlock something.
Key things. Everybody's got their thing.
Mm-hmm. So you've had a fantastic career up to date. What keeps you passionate about working in the field that you're in? What really drives you? And has that changed over the course of your career?
I think it's important for it to kind of always evolve. When I was the work I did a lot at Cartoon Network, there was definitely a push to create more queer characters in children's programming. So to create visibility for that was very important to me, and to be a part of all the shows that were trying to do that was important to me. And I think I got lucky to be on a lot of them. And I do feel like, although that fight is not done, we've made a lot of progress. And so for me, it's now what's new? Now what can I do to create visibility elsewhere that that feels right for me to have a voice on? Right now, I think that one of the things that I would like to see more of and try to push for more visibility on is people who are with disabilities, and to show more of that. I think that's another place in children's programming where we haven't put a lot of time in that. And I think that there's no reason why there can't be greater representation for that as well. So for me, it's always about making good content that I think kids should see and that I wish I had as a kid. As long as I'm doing that, then the passion and everything keeps going.
Absolutely. Well said. And you've done so much for the queer community. And Dustin and I have a mutual friend that is doing a documentary about actors with disabilities who love horror films. So it's a highlight of that. And it's
right.
Definitely we need more awareness. And I agree with you completely. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like everybody, especially now, everybody should have representation in everything, every form of media.
Everybody should be able to see themselves as a kid in television.
Exactly.
Full stop.
Well said. Yes, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have worked on so many different IPs: Marvel, Fast and the Furious, Adventure Time. What do you? I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but do you have a favorite?
The hard question.
You know that I'm never going to answer that straight on. I'm always going to come at that sideways. I'm not going to, there's no favorite, but you like certain things about each one uniquely. So for me, I had a fun time on Fast and Furious because I just got the show run on that was great, and Tim gave me a lot of latitude to just kind of play with it and to add my own sensibilities to it. the thing that was fun for me to do Fast and Furious is that I come from a NASCAR family. My middle brother was a NASCAR driver. His nephew went on to win Daytona a couple times in the Saturday series. Yeah, so like there's NASCAR deep in my family. So I knew it was probably one of the few things I would do that my dad would ever watch.
Sure,
So it was just fun for me to work on something that I wouldn't normally probably gravitate towards individually, but to know that world actually kind of well with race of cars and all that. We grew up with a shop in our backyard. We grew up on a farm, and there was a mechanic shop that my brothers just spent all their day in. So I grew up around cars, so that was fun for me to do that. Adventure Time is really more my sensibilities. I like weird, I like quirky, and that's fun. It was hard to jump into that series for Distant Lands, and we're actually doing, it's announced, so I can talk about it. Fiona and Cake, another iteration of that now. But there's so many characters that I had to get up to speed on. That's hard. But I do like all of those characters and that performance style and the vibe of the show. So that's tons of fun. And then for Marvel, it was just being at work with a lot of first time seeing female superheroes. So that was cool. Yeah. And to bring that forward. And I still think they missed the boat in not having one of the characters who is bi be out in the show. We were going to do it. And to be honest, the toy manufacturers have a lot of say, and they have a lot of old dinosaurs who need to retire who make poor decisions.
Yes.
So
agreed. Yes.
That's hard in some of those franchises. But yeah, so you just find something unique about them that you key into, and that also just kind of keeps you excited to do the project.
And it just speaking of comics for a little bit, DC Comics has a greater history of LGBTQ plus representation. Marvel, not so much. It seems like DC seems to sort of, be not as afraid on their physical media and their live action to push. And Marvel has sort of put little bits here and there, but really never.
Yeah. It's the toy manufacturers. It's a totally
absolutely. There's a lot of old dinosaurs making decisions that are not reflective to what we want as a culture.
Yeah.
And that sort of lends itself to my next point. Do you feel like that now through time you have a lot more freedom yourself to work on projects or put your own spin on things, or are you still running into those hurdles where more studios have control and
you have more freedom? You don't have to fight for the littlest things anymore. So like the first time that we pushed for this was on Clarence, and it was the smallest thing of the teacher was going on a blind date, and she's at a booth in a restaurant. She sees a handsome guy walk in, and she's excited. She thinks that's her date, and another guy comes up, kisses him on the cheek, and she's like, oh, so that's the joke. And that was so hard to get pushed through. So then you forward to like Steven Universe that has an actual gay wedding. So the things that those can still be hard to do, but the smaller characters like on Clarence are not as hard. So, and I've also just stopped. I mean, part of the queer community, we kind of got together in animation and said, we're going to stop asking and just start doing. Yes. And when that happened, you can see a market change in just the amount of queer characters that came as a consequence of that.
We could feel it as consumers of the product. We could see that the switch was flipped and the floodgates were open. It's not completely open in all of media, but it's getting there, and hopefully, you'll see a Marvel movie, a Spider-Man movie, or something that at the highest caliber with representation that we all just see.
As long as everyone goes with that and just stops asking and just starts doing. I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. That was just we all got together in a room and talked about it. It was all the queer people we knew that were in animation. We got together and we're like, what do we do? Because we were tired of fighting, banging our heads against the wall, and we all just decided, fuck it. We're just going to start doing it, and we'll see what happens. Yeah.
If we can keep that going.
Yeah.
A brighter, better world.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Dustin, what you got?
Well, I'm looking through your stuff here, and are you ever do you do mostly cartoons, and you ever gonna do you want to do more live action stuff, or have you thought about
yeah, for sure. I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out. I had some stuff kind of brewing before the pandemic. And then I'm like, I don't really want to do that right now. I know that there are a lot of hurdles in order to make live action right now that I don't want to mess with.
Sure.
So, because I do enjoy creating content for kids, and working with kids right now in the pandemic is a whole different level of challenge. So I think I'd rather wait until that's over and we'll see what happens. Maybe is a solid answer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's solid. Maybe is not a no. Maybe.
Exactly.
Both, right?
Yeah.
So Dustin and I, like we share a love of comic books, and we have been cartoons, and we thought about doing voice work.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we do background work.
Cool. Yeah.
But we do have a lot of people who are watching. They're just breaking into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have some advice to give on, so if you have someone starting out that wants to do voiceover work, what sort of resources do you think they should seek out? I just got done watching, to pump myself up for this, is I Know That Voice, that documentary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I watch all the time. It's just the people I grew up with talking. The curtain is sort of revealed a little bit. I also love magic, so when you get to peek behind the curtain and see how the trick works, which is cool. But what other resources or advice would you give someone that wants to start out in voice work?
I think the most important thing is to take acting lessons. I think that is, a lot of people go into voice acting thinking, I just talk on a microphone, and you don't. I mean, that would be a lovely way, but that's not. Even if you're just doing promo work, you need to take acting lessons, not just specific to the working the microphone, but just knowing how to make choices in a room that would inform your characters and how to add more life to your performances and that kind of thing. So my first thing is always take an acting lessons, always come at this job as an actor first and the technique second, because I can always tell you how to do a little bit of technique on the mic, but sure. But your craft has to be something you're working on more actively. So
absolutely.
That's the main thing.
Because the best, when you see the behind the scenes, the best voice actors, they're emoting. They are no one's watching. It's just them in a booth, but
exactly. Yeah. And a lot of times I find the best direction I can give an actor is a gesture, and that gesture motivates the performance so much better than me giving an adjective. Like I'll say the suggestions, you're suggesting that, but think of it like a palms up suggestion. There's a very specific way that's said when you suggest something with your palms up. So, it's things like that. I'll give the physicality to it, and that helps really inform the performance so much more than any other descriptors I could use.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Kristi, what little, can you give us any sneak peeks? What are you working on these days? What do you got going on?
So I'm working on some stuff that'll be released this year that I can talk about that has been announced. I did talk about Adventure Time Fiona and Cake. That will be 10 episodes that we're doing with that. It's kind of fun. The age on that's a little older. It's fun so it's like 14 plus. It's always interesting when you're working with a different level of age demographic, what S&D, the standards and practices, will allow you to do. So they're like, well, you can say shit in one time in an episode. But what does that mean?
Make it worth it.
We're doing it's been announced it'll also come out this year, I think hopefully towards the end of the year, the animated Gremlins prequel, which picks up at the beginning of so it's starts in the early 1900s in Shanghai. So that'll come out this year. Another show that's interesting, and I will see what it does. It's something totally different. It's AMC is doing a show called Pantheon, which is a scripted drama, animated, and they are hour-long episodes, and there are 8-hour-long animated dramatic episodes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's a pretty big cast. It's Paul Dano, William Hurt, Aaron Eckhart, Taylor Schilling. It's some big names in there, but it is sci-fi drama, straight up.
Gosh, right up my alley. That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
wow.
it's based on a short story that and the showrunner, a great guy named Craig Silverstein, who is straight from live action.
Yep.
So this is his first time doing animation. It's AMC's first time doing animation. So we'll see.
We'll see. That's a lot of
We'll
first.
see how everybody. Yeah, so it's a lot of like, oh, we'll see what we'll see how if the world is ready. I mean, clearly the world is ready for this in Japan. We'll see if the United States and North America is ready for this.
For it.
That's very well said, because a lot of things that are big in Japan, the vanilla world of the United States is not quite.
It doesn't really translate. Yeah. So that's really kind of the gamble, is if we'll see if they are.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ready or not, it's coming.
Ready or not, it's coming.
Ready
yeah.
or not, it's coming.
Yeah.
We're ready though. We're ready.
I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Hope so. We'll see.
Especially the Gremlins, again, 80s kid, God, so stoked.
That's gonna.
Yeah. That's been kind of fun. There's been days, directing Gizmo has been that's it's maybe you got to pinch yourself, because that's pretty awesome.
You know what? I hope
that's a wonderful sentence right there. Spending Gizmo.
Yeah.
Hope that gets us a whole new generation into Gremlins. That'd be so amazing.
I hope so. Yeah. I think I'm a little curious if people are going to see are going to look at kids are going to look at Gizmo and think Gorgu and think, oh, Gizmo's just doing that guy. I'm like, oh, we'll see.
They probably will. Probably, come on now, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But that leads me to sort of my last question, and it brings it up perfectly. So nostalgia is big. It seems like Hollywood is running out of ideas. However, what you're doing and the projects you mentioned, aside from Gremlins, I see why they're doing it.
Sure, yeah.
But we do need more original content. I think that everything is sort of getting a little bit stale. The Hollywood bigwigs are going to shoot me for saying that, but
you're not wrong. Yeah.
Right. So do you feel like you are more fulfilled working on, my dog agrees, working on original content, or are there limitations? I'm sure there's not as many limitations to original content as there is to someone else's original IP, like Gremlins. Or
I do tend
Marvel.
to skew away from big franchise extensions, unless they're trying to do something new. So occasionally someone will come to me with a franchise extension, and they're like, I want to do something different with this. And, and I'll be like, and I'll hear what it is. I'm like, yeah, you could totally do that. That would be great. So, there's something coming out. Well, I guess I can talk about it because it has released. So it's the new Nickelodeon Transformers Earthspark. So I am not inherently a Transformers fan. When they call me to work on, I'm like, I don't know if I'm the right person. And the showrunner was like, I want to do Iron Giant with this. And I was like, oh, well, that would be amazing. You could totally do that. That completely lends itself to that. So that's an occasion where I was like, okay, that's something different and new. And I would love to be able to try and make that happen. So, yeah.
Dude, that sounds amazing. That's a good example. I like that's, don't carbon copy, change it enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Find, put more heart in there, put better performances in there, take it out of the, some of those bad 80s voices and do some real stuff with it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bring it. Yeah. It was just Transformers was created to sell toys.
Exactly.
So, but putting heart into it and actually treating, elevating it is kind of something cool. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And then the art is like the animation's beautiful. So hopefully it translates. It's tough. That's a tough one to do. And people got to be receptive to, to taking some of their favorite characters and hearing them not sound the same. So, we'll see.
Yeah. Fans love to tear stuff apart.
They do. Yeah. Yeah. They should sound one way. That's it. So
the way I want.
You change
exactly. The way I hear it is the only way that it should be done. Yeah. Fans love it when you take their sacred cows and tear them apart. It's gonna be great. No, we'll see. I think it's I'm up for always trying something new with something, but I think there's got a bit little to it. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And it could become a cult hit. One of my favorite things that was before its time was I loved The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. I love Flapjack. But it just, I think that was maybe a little bit ahead of its time. We weren't ready for that level of weirdness. So you never know. It could be a hit or a cult hit and become a hit a little bit later on. Cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Flapjack is, we still work with so many of those actors. Ross Ryan is still work with.
So good.
Awesome. Well, Kristi, thank you for joining us today. This is so much fun. We'll definitely have to.
Thank you for asking me. That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, y'all, thank you for tuning in to Hollywood Interviews, and we'll catch y'all later.